Hi, this is my fourth time of me ranking Bjork's albums from worst to best. Two of them I've posted, one of them I did not. This one I plan on posting. This is my first video back for 2020. I took a while off. And the two videos I posted prior to this video, I hadn't even listened to the albums all the way through, which, if you think about it, why the fuck would you make a video if you don't even know what you're talking about? I'm gonna be the first to say I had no idea what I was talking about. Now, I've had my 2-year Bjorkiversary in November. I started listening to her a couple weeks before Utopia came out, and I've spent a lot of time with her albums. I have 2 of them on cassette, I have 4 of them on vinyl, and I think I've come up with my best list, and a list that not everybody is going to agree with, but at least respect. Because I see why people didn't respect my lists in the past, because they were a little bonkers.com. Just a quick disclaimer, this is just a video based off of opinion. My opinions are not facts. They mean nothing. Alright? This album I think has been at the bottom of all of my lists, and that is 2011's Biophilia. I definitely think that Biophilia is one of her most creative and ambitious projects that she's ever done, with a brilliant concept. I just think that the execution was not up to par. I think that a lot of the songs run on unmemorable fuel, and that's no disrespect to those songs because the songs are still good, but they are not great. I do, however, think that Biophilia has some of the better production in her entire discography, considering the follow-up from Volta. I do like some of the songs off of Biophilia, and those are Crystalline, Cosmogony, and Mutual Core. I think that those 3 songs all have incredible production. I think that the lyricism is amazing. Mutual Core is probably my favorite off of this album. They definitely hold a strong weight in her discography as some of her best songs. However, would I go out of my way to listen to this album? No, I wouldn't. The next album on my list is 2004's Medulla. Medulla is another one of Bjork's most ambitious and creative projects. It's more of a personal preference for me that it's so low because I am personally not a fan of beatboxing. I think that it's very old to me, and it doesn't it's hard for me to get into. I do think that in some of the songs it's kind of overdone, especially in Where Is the Line. I feel like everything is just a little crazy. And on Medulla, it does feel like that there are many filler tracks and tracks that I feel are unmemorable, and tracks that just don't make sense really with the way that the project flows. I do think that Medulla has some of her most beautiful harmonies in her entire discography, and I think that a lot of the songs are next to perfect when it comes to how it was written. Some of my favorites from this album are Oceania, Vokuro, Triumph of a Heart, and Desired Constellation. Oceania is probably my favorite off of this album. Would I go out of my way to listen to this album? No, I wouldn't. The next album on my list is 2007's Volta. Volta is usually the album that is on the bottom of everybody's list, but I think that it is very different when it comes to Bjork's discography. It stands out in an interesting way. I think that in the very beginning of the album with the first 2 tracks, it comes in very strong and very upbeat compared to her previous projects. Throughout Volta, it does not hold up to that expectation of those first 2 songs, which is unfortunate because with an album, you want it to be consistent throughout the entire album with how good it is. And with Volta, it very much feels like it comes up here and then it just goes down. Some songs are a little hard to get through considering their length. However, on Volta, it has some of her most beautiful soft songs that she's ever created, and I think Volta has some of her best vocals in her entire discography. Some of my favorites from this album are Earth Intruders, Wanderlust, I See Who You Are, Pneumonia, and Declare Independence. My favorite probably being Earth Intruders, and my second favorite probably being Pneumonia. God damn, my hair is really not wanting to cooperate with me. This just looks wrong. Would I go out of my way to listen to this album? No, I wouldn't. The next album on my list is 2017's Utopia. I think that Utopia is a good follow-up from Vulnicura, but it does not hold the same bar that Vulnicura holds. One of the best things about Utopia to me is that she made flute work. It's very hard to make flute sound good because sometimes flute just sounds completely wrong. That's coming from a flute player. I played flute for 5 years and she made flute work, which I think is why I love this album a lot, but I see why people put it lower, so that's why I put it lower, because it makes more sense. I think that Utopia has some of her most beautifully written tracks, and the production is a different story. I think that the production is good on some of the songs, but on the other songs, it feels very overdone, very chaotic, and it doesn't sound good. I said it, it doesn't sound good. Some of my favorites from this album are The Gate, Blissing Me, Courtship, Features Creatures, and Future Forever. The Gate probably being my favorite. I think that The Gate probably has the best production on the album. I also think that The Gate has her best music video that she's ever done. But would I go out of my way to listen to this album? I might. Next album is 1993's debut. Perfectly titled, it was Björk's first album in her solo career, and I do think it is one of the best debuts in music history. There are some artists with their first album being horrible, and Debut has sold her most records out of any of her other projects. If I'm not mistaken, it sold over 5 million, which is a lot. I do think that some of the instrumentation on Debut doesn't sound completely right, especially on Anchor Song, because I feel like saxophones are a very aggressive instrument that are hard to make sound soft and lovely and beautiful and gorgeous, and I feel like they clash a lot with Björk's vocals in that song. I do, however, think that some of her most underrated songs are from Debut. I think Debut being released at the time it was released was almost like a breath of fresh air. Some of my favorites from this album, I'm gonna have to look at my list. Human Behavior, Crying, Venus as a Boy, Big Time Sensuality, One Day, Aeroplane, and Come to Me. It's probably Venus as a Boy is my favorite from this album. It's just such a timeless song. It's beautiful. Would I go out of my way to listen to this album? I would consider it. I might. Yeah. Next album is 1995's Post. I think it's a great follow-up to Debut. I think that it definitely held its weight being next to her first record. I feel like it's definitely a good second. Some of her most popular work came out of Post, and the production is good, but it definitely has its flaws. Some of the songs sound very quiet in comparison to the song above it or the song next to it. Sometimes it sounds muffled, like on the song Enjoy. However, I think that on certain songs, the production is amazing, especially on Hyper Ballad, which I feel like Hyper Ballad and The Gate are like brother and sister. The songs on this album are very memorable also. Some of the songs, however, aren't super great in comparison to the other songs, but I do think that the songs that stand out definitely make this album jump high up on my list. Some of my favorites, you ask? I tell you, Army of Me, Hyper Ballad, Modern Things, It's Oh So Quiet, Enjoy, Isobel, Possibly Maybe, and Headphones. Hyper Ballad and Isobel are probably my favorites off this album. I definitely think that Isobel is one of her most underrated songs of all time. Would I go out of my way to listen to this album? Probably. I would definitely consider it. Next album is 2015's Vulnicura. I think that Vulnicura definitely has some of the best production in her entire discography, and the lyricism is probably some of her best as well. And it definitely is not a cliche breakup album, because you see these breakup albums that sound, you know, similar, they have similar lyrics, and Björk definitely takes a different turn with that. She turns it into an emotional roller coaster. When I first listened to this album, I cried. I fucking cried. Some of the songs just pluck your heartstrings in like the right way to make you feel her emotions through this album. You can definitely feel the pain from the breakup. Some of the songs are very long and sort of hard to get through, but it kind of makes up for the incredible production. And some of the songs, I wasn't ready for them to be over. On Lion Song, that song is 6 minutes, I think, and I wasn't ready for it to be over. With Black Lake, however, I feel like it definitely could have been cut down to a shorter song because that song is 10 minutes in length. Some of my favorites from this album are Stone Milker, Lion Song, History of Touches, Black Lake, Family, Mouth Mantra, and Quicksand. Lion Song probably being my favorite off this album, with honestly Quicksand being a close second. I love that song. I think that Lion Song has the best production on the entire album, but would I go out of my way to listen to this album? Yes. I would go out of my way to listen to this album. The next album on my list is 2001's Vespertine. Now, before you go racing to the comments and bash me for that opinion, just hear me out, all right? I think that Vespertine is the world's best love album. You can't change my mind with that. I'm sorry. I think that Vespertine has some of the best beats in her entire discography. I think that the concept of using household items and domestic life to create a soundtrack is one of the most brilliant concepts in all of music history. There are people by my room. I think that the entire project sounds... Excuse me. I think that the entire project sounds completely effortless. Why aren't you focusing on my face? You have the box around my face, but you're not focusing on it. Thank you. I think that the entire project sounds completely effortless. I do feel that there are a couple of unmemorable songs, but the songs that are memorable are the ones that skyrocket this project. The ones that are absolutely drop dead gorgeous. With those songs being Hidden Place, Cocoon, It's Not Up to You, Undo, Pagan Poetry, Aurora, Heirloom, and Unison. My favorite probably being... Oh god, I have a lot of favorites off this album. Probably being Hidden Place, It's Not Up to You, Pagan Poetry, or Unison. I just love those songs so much. Like, if I had to listen to, 10 songs before I died, those songs would 100% be in there. I love the complexity of Hidden Place, and I just love the absolute beauty of It's Not Up to You. That was my old Björk fan page Instagram name. It was It's Not Up to You, because I just love that song so much. Pagan Poetry is a very rich song in lyrics, and the production is some of the best off the entire album in her entire discography. With Unison, especially considering its length, I feel like it needs the length in a way. Like, it needs to be a long song. It makes sense to have it be a long song. However, would I go out of my way to listen to this? Well, yes, I would. Of course. Who wouldn't? You're crazy if you wouldn't. And my favorite album from Queen Björk, the original Queen Bee. I said it. 1997's Homogenic. Homogenic, in my opinion, has some of the best production in the entire music industry, without a doubt. A lot of the songs are very memorable, and all of the songs have their own thing to them. They're all memorable for one or two or three different things. This album is also simple, but very complicated at the same time, in the sense that in a documentary, Björk said that she wanted it to be simple, with having it be just strings, beats, and voice. And the songs are also very cohesive throughout the entire album, and they hold up to the standard of the song above it, so it sounds like, like this. Even though there are songs that do stand out, I don't think any of the songs are bad. I don't. Mateo, what are your favorites from this album? Oh, who said that? I will answer that question. I need to never do that ever again. My god. Hunter, Yoga, Unravel, Bachelorette, All Neon Like, 5 Years, Immature, Alarm Call, and All Is Full of Love. Alarm Call was actually the first song I ever heard from Björk, which I still remember hearing that song for the first time. I was like, who is this? At that time, I was barely listening to any music, and I wanted to listen to music. I wanted to find that artist that, pulled me into their music because all of my siblings had that for them. You know, my brother was really into Motley Crue at the time. My other brother was really into Kanye West. I was like, well, I want to find my person. I tried other artists. They just didn't speak to me. And then I heard Alarm Call. And I was like, I was in the car with my oldest brother and that just came on. And at first I was like, I didn't even know how to feel. I was like, I like this. Ooh, I like this a lot. Ooh, 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 ooh. And thus began my obsession. And would I go out of my way to listen to this? Absolutely. I would. All right, well, I thank you guys so much for watching this, and let me know what your opinion is down below in the comments. I'd love to read it. I'd love to read what you thought of mine in a respectful way. Please, thank you. Thank you for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. All right. I love you guys so much. I'll see you guys in my next video. All right. Bye, children.